Here.
Start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel, proposition here suffers from cowardice and an ability to seize an opportunity that could drastically change not only the image of Kenya, but of Africa at an international stage. Panel, we concede that we are not Wakanda. Neither do we say that we have vibranium resources and, the ability to be able to be a superpower. However, we tell you that, panel, in this debate, Kenya is the East African powerhouse from an economic perspective, the 6th largest economy in Africa with a potential for growth, and even more, panel, Kenya enjoys a continual period of peace and stability within its borders. Panel, we tell you also that that same country exists within the paradigm of Haiti as a comparative, where there's a lot of gang violence that is there, high murder rate that is present, dilapidated governance systems resulting in the most secure person, i.e. their president, being assassinated in 2021 and most importantly, panel, there is some element of neglect by both Western and Eastern powers. Having understood and bought into this characterization, panel, we offer you 4 layers of framing that will set the premise for our argumentation today. 1, notice that international actors, including the United States, have had an opportunity to actually intervene in this issue, but they have chosen not to actually opt into this activity, looking for more high-profile instances of impact. For example, the Israel and Palestinian conflict, as well as Russia and Ukraine. Secondly, panel, all countries do not operate in a silo. International recognition for all states is incredibly imperative and is important no matter how big or small the state is. Even thirdly, panel, African countries are often seen as inferior to the West in terms of intervention from a general, geopolitical perspective. Meaning that, for example, when Kenya acts in Somalia and actually prevents a humanitarian issue within that spectrum, Kenya is not given the due respect and regard as an international actor that's actually done the most within that paradigm. Even fourthly, panel, notice that the nature of involvement in Kenya, focuses on 3 fronts. 1, the deployment of 1,000 police officers to actually train and assist these Haiti police. Secondly, the coordination of an international peacekeeping force that's actually aimed at guarding specific public installations. Thirdly, coordination of local police in anti-crime ops, and even most importantly, panel, the international force has a mandate for only 1 year. Notice, panel, with this framing that you understand that majority of this impact is not directly clashing with these individuals, meaning no lives are lost essentially, but we concede that even at the point when lives are lost, there is some level of benefit that accrues on our side. Having understood this, panel, we'll show you 2 things from our speech. 1, why there is existing a moral obligation actually for Kenya to actually intervene in this humanitarian crisis, the element of a moral duty to actually protect civilians from human rights abuses, and even secondly, because this debate is actor-centric, panel, the interests of Kenya are imperative here, and we'll show you why we prove these things on both paradigms. Notice that Kenya actually has a defense budget that it has been able to pledge there. Even secondly, we're able to attract military aid offering, through the lens of expenditure. Meaning Kenya's forces actually could actually have some level of buy-in, allowing us to have some level of financial control within this spectrum. Notice again also, panel, that people from outside, in the event that Kenya actually has a terrible situation, such as an Al-Shabaab attack or something like that, notice that people then from outside are more incentivized to actually assist us to deal with this kind of issue. The language of international relations, panel, is largely quid pro quo in nature, meaning that if we stand by and do nothing within this system, then they are not obliged to actually assist us when we need help the most. This is not only about peacekeeping and security, but also about rebuilding Haiti's policies, economic development, and social stability. I'll take POI from...
It's about principle, then who does the Kenyan government have an obligation to protecting? Haitian citizens or Kenyan citizens?
Brilliant question, which actually takes me to the second incentive here. 5 layers of mechanization showing you why, from a geopolitical perspective, Kenya has the most to win. 1, when states actually do significant action for a period of time, the attention of the world is fixated on this state. The best intuition pump for this is Nairobi Climate Week. The eyes of the world were similarly set in Kenya, looking at the progression of African states and their fight for climate change. Even secondly, panel, we tell you that this has the ability to place Kenya on a higher potential stage from an international perspective, based on the international community. Notice 2 actors actually actually consented into this agreement. One, the United States Secretary General through Gutierrez himself actually heralded Kenya for its involvement in this crisis. And even secondly, we noticed that Canada actually pledged some level of assistance and understood Kenya's involvement within this spectrum. Notice, panel, the third thing here. The perception that African states are generally not actors within this space of international conflict and are not at the same playing field as Western states simply because, quote unquote, there are many other problems to deal with is also quashed from our side, because not only does Kenya take the lead as an African actor with the confidence and capacity to actually improve these things, but also takes lead as an actor with the interest that can actually be able to improve our overall image on the global scale. Panel, we tell you there's a high likelihood of success also present within this instance that can actually bolster Kenya's image to launch Kenya's image in an entirely new paradigm within this instance. Meaning that Kenya can actually be able to secure interests such as bargaining power in the UN, can be able to prevent himself from predatory lending simply because we look like a country that actually has more defensive power, more military power, and the ability to be able to defend themselves when these instances actually necessitate these kinds of things. Never been prouder to beat Joshua Mbugu in this debate.
That last one sounded a bit